Thanks everyone and good evening. I'm going to start just while our last few families are collecting their feeling cards, and just start by welcoming you all here this evening and introducing a few of us who are around. So my name is Kathy Clark and I'm Director of Mission here at St Greg's, and I'm joined up here by Mr Baldino Vitrano, Director of Students, and Mrs Deb Monty, who is coordinating the Rite Journey program this year. So we are so excited to be kicking off this program again. This will be the third time that we've started it, and each year we feel like the boys, the young men, are getting more and more out of the program as we learn more about the program. So we're really excited to be kicking this off with your sons. Some of you might be a little bit tentative, and we'll talk about the feeling cards, thinking, I have this amazing relationship already with my son. We don't need any programs to help us. And in many cases, I completely agree with you. However, having parented 3 now men myself, there are plenty of times along the journey when I had sought advice about various things. And what we're hoping to do this evening is share with you what many of the experts are saying about raising teens in the current world. And I'm very glad that I'm no longer doing it, because it's a really hard job. So we're going to start. Work the clicker. We're going to start with this clip about advice for teen boys from men who've been there. So our hope for your sons and for you and for us as we all work together over the next 18 months in the Right Journey program is that we have more tools in our toolbox, and also that our young men can take on some of that advice and become the best versions of themselves. Everyone's journey we know will be unique and different, but by the end of the year, your son, we hope, will be a fully grown, not this year, end of next year when they finish it, we hope that he will be well on his way to being a fully grown man. We also hope that he gains an understanding of the characteristics which will be important for him as he moves forward after that. All right, you've all taken some feeling cards. It's not working. Anyway, you've taken some feeling cards. I'm going to share my one first, and then I'm going to ask you to share your one with the people that are just around you. So the one I picked tonight is protective, because the more I do this program, the more protective I get of it because I think it's so wonderful. But also, the older I get, the more protective I want to be of our young people, knowing how many dangers there are out there being a teenager today. So my word's protective. I ask you to share your word with someone around you.
I'll go around. I can go down. You grab the mic, and we'll go down and ask if you want to share. I think you want to ask us too. Yep. I'll go before we take the floor. Do you want to share yours? Then just make one up. I'm frantic.
I'll just ask you. You want to be frantic?
I'm frantic.
Oh, you're frantic. What do you want to be? Yes, you can be stressed. Yep.
It's turned on.
All right, so I'm going to ask Mr. Vetrano and Mrs. Monty here, Deb and Baldino, to come around. They're going to share, first of all, what their word is tonight, and then they're going to ask for a brave volunteer to share a little about their word. So, Mr. Vetrano, over to you first.
Okay, thank you. My word was stress. I'm stressed at the moment because I need to present next, so hopefully it goes well, but that was my word.
I chose frantic because I taught 3 periods today and then went straight to sport and then came here and we just got a puppy and I've broken my hand and I'm frantically trying to make it all work. But now I'm back feeling quite peaceful. So I could have chosen 2 today, to be honest, because it's, it's changed
All right,
by
volunteer, raise your hand.
Come on, be brave. Think about your son sitting there trying to be brave. Thank you.
I chose receptive because I'm open to what this program's all about and how it'll affect our relationship.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I chose comfortable purely because I think the school's got the best interests of the boys and the program, having had one already go through this program a couple of years ago. This is our second time through, so I'm not frantic because I've got a bit of faith in what's going on in the program, so I'm comfortable with this. It's a good thing. So.
Fantastic.
That's actually a good point. Can you raise your hand if it is your second time round with the Right Journey? Straight up. Okay, that's good to see. So it'd be really nice to see as we've developed and the boys have got more comfortable with the concept, how they talk to you and if their feedback is different.
Well, being a first timer, I chose enthusiastic because I was told this morning that it's more a cult program. So this is a 14-year-old telling me, Mum, it's a cult program, so, you might just have to choose whether you're coming or not. So, right. That's why I'm here.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure how we'll run with that one, but we'll do our best. Any other brave souls out there? Gentlemen, any more men out there who would like to share? One in the middle there.
Good evening, everybody. I picked the word blessed because I feel with my grandson, I feel blessed with what he is, who he is, and I love him dearly, and that's the reason I picked the word blessed.
Thank you, that's beautiful.
That's lovely, thank you. Yeah, that can have a little clap, that's beautiful. All right, thanks everyone. So without too much stress, Baldino, passing over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Gives me great honour this evening to address parents of Year 9. They're a great group. I've watched them come through in Year 7, had the opportunity to teach most of them in Year 8, and now they're in Year 9. And I was just talking to one of the parents as they came in and said how fast it's actually come through. They're in Year 9 and we're at a stage where things are going to start to change. And for those of you who have older children, you would see that. So the Rite journey and the program that most of you will be introduced to tonight, this evening, is a wonderful program, and we feel it fits perfectly with what we're trying to do with our young men. So the why. My job this evening is to explain why and to implement this program. In a rapidly changing world, how we do things, what's acceptable, how the hows, the whys, and the whatnot. In my 20 years, I've seen a lot of change, a lot of programs come in and out of the place. Pastoral care is an interesting one, because pastoral care is quite unique. So the Rite journey is the best fit, I feel, and we all feel here at the college, for our young men. And we're kind of seeing that in the last 3-4 years as these boys progress through Year 11 and 12 and have started the program and finished the program. And we continue to invest a lot of time and energy and money in the program because it has a very strong value. One thing we need to understand is the Rite journey talks about a rite of passage. A rite of passage is a ceremony, a ritual, which occurs when an individual leaves one group and enters another. It involves significant change and status in society. Many cultures use rites of passage in the way they bring up their young people and they move from one particular milestone in their life to another. I'm going to show you a clip of one particular ritual. This particular ritual comes from Brazil in the Amazon. Let's take a look.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hello there.
Hi.
I leant forward and presented my hands.
Oh God. Oh God.
Could I put these gloves on and keep my cool in front of the tribe?
Have mercy.
Obviously not. Jeez, with a couple of deep breaths though, I felt like I'd be back to normal in no time.
Can I get you a Panadol? A Nurofen Plus? What do I do? What do I do?
You have to dance to release the pain, Amish.
Okay, can we dance then?
Jeez, I was going to be surprised if this helped.
Seems like a very strange directive from the doctor, isn't it? Just dance.
And evidently, it didn't,
Hang in there, buddy. Hang in there.
because Hames soon commenced what we now know as the 6 stages of sting pain.
Shrieking.
Refusal to dance.
You have to dance.
I don't want to dance. This is the last time I've ever felt like dancing.
Screaming / or swearing.
Sweating.
Some shaking.
Biting stick requests. Problem was, this went on for an hour, relentlessly.
Cold water?
Yeah.
How's that?
I need ice.
Yeah, I'll get you ice. I'll get you ice.
Toxin from the ants generates the worst pain a human is capable of experiencing. There was nothing I could do to help him, so I essentially stood by in shock at the reaction.
I'm just not stopping.
We later found out that not only do these ants sting multiple times a second, but they release a pheromone telling any nearby ants to also sting.
Oh, dear.
Haim had been stung 100 times over.
man.
By the 2-hour mark, Hamish had collapsed with exhaustion, but it was clear the pain hadn't receded at all. And the doctor offered up a suggestion.
Let's go to the hospital.
Well, a bit of a worry wart there, Doc, if you ask me.
Obrigado.
No, seriously, thank you, though.
We made the hour-long trip back to the closest hospital where luckily the emergency doctors were able to treat Hame and I was able to find a seat.
Hola. Good one not to get. Thank you, Chief.
8 hours after the stinging, I was finally able to talk to my friend again.
How you feeling?
I think I prefer being stung by this big white wasp.
Morphine?
Yeah, he's a good wasp. That was unbelievable.
You look a lot like a man now, though, just so you know.
I grew an extra testicle.
The good news is, even though they felt like they'd been busted up by hammers, at midnight I was able to get out of hospital and take my hands to Macca's.
And right now, your lovely child is up the top of the hill going through that rite of passage. No, I'm joking, it's not. But ultimately, you can understand some of the procedures and rites of passage that have evolved over different cultures and different parts of the world. Just a few more, and it might be a little bit hard to read on the big screen, but another interesting one is what happens in Vanuatu. It's called land diving, and men take place in a yearly harvest ritual called land diving. It occurs from a height of 100 feet or more, and divers reach a speed of 45 miles an hour as they plummet to the ground. The goal of the jump is to land close enough to the ground that the driver's shoulders touches the ground. Any miscalculation on the length of the vine means either serious injury or death. It serves as a rite of passage to initiate the tribe's boy into manhood. There's a few other ones there from the Maasai warriors, a cow jumping activity in Africa as well, and what you saw just before with the bullet ants in the Amazon. And they're only just a few. So where am I going with this? So what are our rite of passages in our own culture here in Australia? Probably not as aggressive or the extent to it, like in terms of safety, we don't have to really worry about it as much. And some of these we do, don't get me wrong. But things like, specific material taking marks in the transition from, into adulthood. There's religious rituals, things like getting your P's, maybe heading overseas on a trip, is basically as much as we go in terms of the rite of passage of a young man or a woman. Then when they turn 18, young people leave the child zone and should be able to go into that adult zone. Before that, we protect them, cover for them, allow them to make excuses for their poor choices because they're kids or because they're boys. So how's that experience of growing up and being a teenager different than what it was, now to when you guys were like me, my age? So basically I'm in my 40s, give or take in here, a bit younger, a bit older. Your lifestyle and your teenage years would have been very, very different when we look back. What were the issues you confronted while you were growing up? I'm sure they're very different to what teenagers confront today. And generally, that's what the Rite journey taps into. It's a very different world at the moment. And at times, it can be a scary, detached world if we kind of drop the ball as parents and just lose sight of what our children are up to or doing.
That one working? Yeah. So I was just going to hit the floor really quickly and just see and I think the answer is pretty obvious, but I'd like to see if you guys do as well. What do you think is the biggest difference between our adolescents, well, you know, similar age, of course, and what your sons are going through now? Anyone want to put their hand up and say what they think? Social media, okay, and access to the World Wide Web at their fingertips. And we're saying this now aimed at boys that are 14, 15, 16, when in reality, we could be having this talk with children as young as 5 and 6, because there are children out there who do have their own Instagram accounts and their social medias out there, they've got smartphones, and the world is at their fingertips, okay? And it's a world that I don't want to navigate myself, and our children are being thrust into it, even if they don't have it themselves. Someone there on the bus or on the, you know, the playground or whatever, not playground, but, you know, out in public might be showing them things that they're not ready for yet. Okay, and I think that's the biggest thing, that we were protected because there was the G rating, the PG and all that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff's by the wayside now because everything can be streamed wherever, at any time.
Thanks, Miss. I think we could look at things like play. You know, once upon a time we'd ride our bikes, head down to the park, spend time outside the household, and your parents would probably let you go. They weren't really worried. They knew where you might have been, or riding your bikes around the suburbs, or heading down to the local shops. There was a sense of, a little bit more sense of freedom. It's quite interesting because today we are so heavily surveillanced and supervised, and, you know, children have got phones and we can track them where they are, yet we're a little bit more reluctant to let them out of the house. And you know, we're trying to work out every minute. You don't want anything to go wrong. So that's an interesting one about how young people, teenagers, interact and play. The next one is family life. You can see in this picture from the difference between engagement between the families in these situations. You have, you know, in the 80s and 90s, probably board games and sitting around as a family, whereas these days, you know, you look over to the other one and everyone's on a laptop, a device. You can see from the, you know, the little baby up against the TV. So everyone's just doing their own thing. I wonder how many families eat at the dinner table together. That's a real interesting one. I ask that quite a lot with my boys when I speak to them, when we do partial sessions about family engagement. We're all very busy people. Myself, as a father, I try my best every night to sit with my 2 daughters and my wife and talk about the day. My eldest just started high school, and I want to know how she's integrating into high school, wanting to know, you know, how her day has been, you know, whatever's happening. And I find if we can do that every night and enjoy those moments, it's so valuable. But I can do it in my household. It's not the same in every household. People work, people have different commitments. You know, a lot of the boys, you do a lot of sport, and things don't really add up when you have a busy lifestyle, a lot of siblings and people in the family. But those moments of being together are extremely important. And I do believe a lot of issues get resolved at the dinner table. And having that opportunity to have discussion and open discussion can really go a long way. The other one is about, sorry, just go back one. Is about waiting then and now. You probably do remember country practice, and each week waiting for that one episode to come up, and you wouldn't know what was going to happen next. Today, you can watch Netflix, you watch 7 seasons in a weekend, and you're done and dusted. You can fast forward, rewind, whatever you want. So there's that sense of waiting and appreciating things, and time has gone out the door. I don't think, boys in Year 9 have any idea of that. We do, but not our children. So everything's straight away, everything's quick. We just press a button, we get an answer. We want to know something, we want to do something, it's super quick. So that satisfaction and gratification's not there anymore, of waiting, of expecting something, of holding on to something.
I'll just add to that one too. Who watched The Wonder Years? Did anybody watch that show? Who cared about Winnie Cooper and Kevin Arnold and what was going to happen? Okay, so we would watch an episode and then the next day go to school and talk all about it, and then get home, watch another one and talk about it the next day. And even that community is gone now. Like, Or when Molly died on a country practice, I remember everyone was at school really upset. But that doesn't happen anymore because someone's watching it one episode and they're flying through something. And there's none of that coming back and talking about. It's not a joint community event to watch TV anymore because everyone's off on their own tangents watching their own things. So that's just another thing that I feel we've even lost that connection that TV used to bring. I mean, I know a lot of households have got 5 or 6 TVs, so people might be in different rooms watching them. We had the one TV and we would all lay on the floor watching the cricket, watch a country practice. When the credits rolled at the end, we'd all pretend to be asleep because that was bedtime. Okay, so that sort of has gone as well, even in terms of family, being able to bond over a certain show and all that sort of things.
Thank you. Video clips and what you see in the music world, the then and now, the difference in sexuality that is in our children's lives is amazing. It's just crazy at the moment. Compared to the videos of, Mel and Kim's Respectable from the 80s. That's Mrs. Clark's.
This one here was raunchy in my day.
I guess compared to this, Anaconda from Nicki Minaj. Like, these images which are unbelievably very, very different. And young people, it's very confronting. And that's what they see on a regular basis, unfortunately. And unfortunately, kind of everyone here, in a way, has grown to that, and we kind of allow it. So it's a difficult scenario to be in. This is a great one, communication, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this one. The then and now. In the past, we had to call the home phone, engage in small talk with the friends' parents, who you would call Mr. and Mr. So-and-so, before politely asking to talk to their child. This private conversation would happen in front of the living room, amongst the siblings and parents, or if you had a very long cord, you could get to the pantry or somewhere quiet and have a private conversation. These days, most children are just on their phones, iPads, talking, conversing online, and it can be a scary world out there of how they can get entrapped in scenarios and situations and, involved in really uncomfortable scenarios. So we're kind of cut out of that picture. We don't know who they're conversing with. We can hear them sometimes if they're talking verbally, but if it's all done online and done by social media and done in different ways, things like streaks and this and that, and you're thinking, half of us, I don't understand sometimes what, I need explanations. I go, what is going on? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? So apparently a streak, you take a photo every 10 seconds of something and you've got to keep doing it and something like that to be engaged in this conversation or chat with pictures in it. I don't know why you do it, but anyway, they do it. So there's got to be some logic to it that myself, can't connect with because I'm just not, built that way, but they're doing it. So we are disconnected in some retrospects. This is probably my biggest concerning one, sexualisation and porn. We've had a lot of work in the last couple of years with the sexualised landscape and the changing landscape of the adolescent. We had Daniele Principe is a great spokesman for. He came out to the school and did a workshop with the boys. I think it was 2 years ago now, or last year. It was last year, and it was amazing. The boys were really, and there was a parent forum on it that evening as well, and we had a few parents show up to that. It was a great eye-opener, and the boys came out of that really prepared, understanding and knowing that. What the world can be like or is like and how they're navigating through it as young men. So that was really, really interesting. And there's been obviously a shift in exposure of young people. If we look at some statistics and recent studies, of the 50 most popular, say, pornographic titles, found 88% of the scenes included violence. 95% depicted violence against women by men. Boys and young men are likely to access pornography more frequently, view it more positively, which is concerning, and consider it a valuable source of information on sex ed. So they're using what they're seeing as the norm because they don't know anything better and think that's how it should be. Some research has suggested children as young as 8 are seeing pornography, and other studies have suggested around the age of 11. According to research conducted by local Sydney University psychologists, children are starting to view pornography between the ages of 11 and 13. Moreover, a 2012 publication reported that the worrying trend that young children are intentionally accessing porn, sometimes as young as 11 years of age. So they're going to look for it. It's just, they don't stumble through it and say, oh, this popped up on my feed, or I'm on the internet and something came up and wasn't blocked. They're actually going to source it out. So that's really, really different. And if you do look at the picture, you know, the most you could go, say about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, would be your Playboy magazine and things like that. These days, flick of a switch, and it's very readily available. The next part I want to talk about is quite, I don't want to discuss it, but it's something really concerning as well. The effects of pornography on young men and women are quite detrimental, and the focus on our boys tonight is what I want to focus on. And being men, and according to recent data, something like erectile dysfunction affects 8% of males between the age of 20 and 29, 11% of men between the age of 30 and 39 years of age, and a number under 40 are starting to take medical advice about ED because it's such a thing that's on the increase. There are many factors contributing to ED, including anxiety, depression, a feeling of shame or guilt about sexual activity, smoking, drinking, alcohol in excess, using recreational drugs, obesity could be a part of it, lack of physical activity, using workout supplements, which is something your boys are probably going to start looking into because that's the current trend about body image, and of course accessing pornography. So that is quite alarming, that combination of things, and the desensitization of it all is creating this problem with young people today, with young men.
I just want to come in on that one too. Not only are our young men suffering from being unable to establish good, normal, typical relationships later on, but our young girls are as well. So our young girls are reportedly more and more attending hospitals or medical places because of the damage that's been done to them when they think they're doing what they should be doing to please a boy. And we know that a lot of the things that they see on platforms like Twitter, which is apparently one of the most accessible for our young people. So if your son is on Twitter, that's where he's getting a lot of sex education, and that's where your daughters as well are getting that same education, and it is resulting in really severe problems when they are trying to establish good, healthy relationships later on. So just a little byline about watching them and their interactions with Twitter and Instagram as well.
With the last point on parenting, the then and now in general, what we don't often do is help them to move from being completely protected to being able and function as a responsible, compassionate adult. As the adult, we need to increase the risk slowly. And we need to begin with our young men as much as possible while they're young. The Boys to Men program at St. Greg's used to be a part of this transition. Many, many years ago, we used to have the Outward Bound camp where we used to put the boys, in the middle of the bush, and you got whatever, you got to get to the other side, you got to camp right through it. There were a lot of tears, there were a lot of, hardship, and you just got through it. Times have changed, and those types of camp ideology and doing things that way has changed quite a lot over the years. So the Boys to Men program, has to have a transition. And again, the changing world and rapidly the program will work, that has worked in the past, won't work now. So let's have a look at how things may have changed. The two trampolines are probably a good example of, how much we protect our boys in terms of children, not boys, but in general. trampoline once upon a time, you know, whatever it was, if you fell off, you fell off. These days it's heavily guarded and protected. Okay, this particular abstract, kids struggling with skills. So this is all about, if you have a quick read of that, I'm not going to read the whole thing, just really about the increase in the struggle of basic skills about empathy, making friends, coping, knowing how to take on disappointment, identifying emotions. You know, it's not just being angry, I'm sad, but really distinguishing the characteristics of emotion. Helicopter parenting's in there. That's a big one. It's a tough call when I'm actually, you know, presenting to a whole bunch of parents. But understanding that sometimes protecting our children, or, you know, just nurturing to the point where it's overbearing, isn't going to be the right outcome. Another example of that are the three parts of the slide. Children learn to take responsibility for their actions so that they do not become adults believing that nothing is ever their fault. And I do like the little cartoon thing. I don't know if you can see that, but basically, and I have to look at it carefully here because it's so small, you know, the guy taking the harder way up the hill, obviously can get to the top and he's going to struggle on the way. And being with that, obviously, has an easier life once he gets to that top because he's done the hard yards while getting up the hill. Whereas someone else who took the easy option and went down and then needs to have a harder life coming up because obviously there's going to be struggles along the way because he wasn't prepared for what was coming. So that ideology is really important. And I guess this one here has been shown to the boys. And if you have a quick read of that one too, boys' psychology over healthy man psychology. I'm ruled by emotion. I can stand with my emotion as a man. I take no responsibility for my action. I take full responsibility for my actions. I will live forever. Oh, no, you won't. I am mortal and I will die one day. And you can see by even the last one, I want mum. I need the help from my family. I seek a relationship with a female. So that transition is really important. And the boys have been explained this as well. Okay. I'll just skip this one. It was a Chuck Norris little saying, but if you want to have a quick read of this, it does make sense. Today we live in a culture that promotes comfort, not challenges. Everything is about finding ways to escape hardship, avoid pain, and dodging duty. In the past, young people were expected to make significant contributions to society. Today, our culture expects very little from teens, not much more than staying in school and doing a few chores. A sad consequence of such low expectations is that life-changing lessons go unlearned. So that's really interesting as well. The last or second last one here is about adolescence. Now, adolescence is an interesting one because adolescence doesn't really form part of many cultures. Our Western culture, yes, we have an adolescent ideology that we go from a child to adolescent to an adult. But adolescence has been around for less than 70 years in Western society. It does not exist in our culture, in other cultures. Sociologists now suggest that young people in the West are moving to adult roles and responsibilities at the age of about 29. So you might have a family friend at the moment, someone you know, a male adult that is in the 20s yet acts like a child. That's very, very common. But ultimately, the idea of adolescence is something that we need to, the concept of that bracket there. In different cultures, you just go from that child to the man, hence the rite of passage, hence that difficult moment where you have to come out of your comfort zone, do something particularly difficult, and then you've leaped over to that next part of your life. So psychologically, those particular moments create that shift, that change. Again, if we don't have those rites of passage, and we don't have elders or people leading and comforting and mentoring our young people, well, what would happen? And this is where we get, things like default rights and young people leading young people, and it's not going to work. Things like vandalism, hoon driving, gang activity, drink driving, sexual activities, suicide attempts, and poor mental health, extreme risk taking, and things like schoolies is an interesting one. Okay, I think that concludes me. And I'll give it to... Yep, thanks, Deb.
Hopefully my hand works to click this thing in this cast that I've got. Right, so I'm going to talk you through basically how the program will run. So your boys have seen a little bit of this. So today we are doing the your parent session. While you're here, we are doing, the boys are out there doing what's called the calling. Okay, and what that part is all about is saying to the boys that we see that you are old enough now to be called to undertake a journey. Okay, we're not going to put their hands with bullet ants like we said, okay, but we are going to take them on a journey that is very, there's going to be emotional, physical, and a range of things that are going to help them grow as men. Okay, it won't happen overnight. We're not going to deliver this, giant men later on with big shoulders and all that sort of stuff, but we're hoping mentally he's more prepared to accept his role in the world. Okay, there's an African proverb. Oh wait, actually, sorry, the why. So the why are we doing this? Okay, and if you look at headlines around at the moment, especially up in Queensland, but it is happening around here, it's actually pretty drab. It's pretty scary what's happening. So things like, schoolgirls are being charged with assault. The rise in female and female violence is really concerning at the moment. Okay, there's young teens who are, you might have seen the grandmother that was murdered for her car in front of her granddaughter. Like, I actually don't watch the news anymore because when I first had my first son, I can't engage in that because my emotions were too high, and ever since I've never gone back because I just think I just can't be exposed to it. There's just too much out there that is heartbreaking. Okay, so we've got ones like 150 youths are charged, a man stabbed by more youths. Okay, this is the one, the 5 teenagers. Like, I know this isn't necessarily happening in your son's groups of friends and things like that, but if you ask them, do you see this sort of stuff at parties and stuff? Maybe not to this extreme, but I'm sure that they would have some tales to tell. Okay, and this is the why. We're trying to equip them to be able to step away from this sort of behaviour or identify it and then move forward. The African proverb we have there is, the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Okay, so what our job as school teachers and parents and mentors is to create that village. So the boys feel warmth, they feel safe, they feel protected, but also safe enough to take risks and know that those risks are going to result in growth. Okay, so they don't always need to be in trouble when they mess up, because we all messed up too. I still mess up. But they need to know that there are consequences for those mistakes. Okay, I mean, I know a lot of times some people might take the phone off somebody because of something that's happened. A lot of the studies say that that's actually not a way to do it because they just go further underground next time. So it's about teaching them how to manage things like that. So the program is basically a worldwide thing, okay? And we're not just grabbing this out of anywhere. This is something that started back in 1997, a PE teacher called Andrew Lyons, and he just noticed that teenagers were just going off tracks. 97 was the year I graduated, so he wasn't around me. I wasn't going for tracks. So I was great. But it's been going on, for 28 years now. There is, if you can see the infographic up there, 120,000 young people around the world have been engaged in this program. This year alone, there'll be 11,000 people, 15-year-old boys and girls, engaging in this program. It's across 4 continents, which is pretty exciting, and 160 countries in the world. So I guess what that says is that we all agree that it needs to happen. It doesn't matter what country you're in, where you're at, we're all seeing that this trend is worldwide and that something needs to be done for our young people so that we're not failing them by introducing these new technologies and stuff and then saying free for all, see how you go and see you on the other side. because that's not fair on them. Okay, and it's stuff that we, as adults, also don't know enough about, except that we're now starting to see after it's been in, you know, the smartphone sort of came in around 2007, you know, in people's pockets. There is a lot of research saying they're seeing the effects of it now. Now, you might have heard about the St Greg's Agile Graduate, which is the program that we have here at the college, and it's talking about the kind of young man that we want to send out into the world. So instead of saying, oh, I just got an ATAR of 98 or whatever it is, you can go out and say, well, maybe my ATAR wasn't great. You don't even have to talk about it, but you can say, I'm definitely responsible, I'm resilient, I'm resourceful, relational and reflective. Okay, but everything at our college is spirit-centred, which is what you can see there. And then we move out into our Maris pillars, which is what we in the classroom and in the playground and everything we do, we base our teachings on. And that's, you know, simplicity, love of work, in the way of Mary, presence and family spirit. And you will see that we are constantly talking about those here at the college, and you'll hear them in all the different ceremonies and things that we have. Then from that, we span out to what we're saying. We want to be physically agile, we want to be socially, emotionally agile, and intellectually agile. That doesn't mean that you're the best at everything. It just means that when you come across problems, agility sort of means, you know, you can duck and weave and change your course without it really, you know, tipping the apple cart, so to speak. So we're trying to make these whole men that will come out feeling that way. And I guess what I found interesting was this was developed before we did the Rite journey, this Agile Graduate. And then when we finally got the Rite journey in, I noticed there, 4 words that they used to sum up the program are 4 of the 5 that we have. So responsible, respectful, resilient and resourceful. So I think what that did was really reinforce that here at the college we're actually getting it quite right, but all around the world educators agree that these are the sorts of things, the sorts of young people that we need to be developing and letting them go into the world with these specific skills. Okay, so now we're going to get to the nuts and bolts of the actual program. So your son will be engaging in this often 2 hours a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. We have a few retreat days where the whole day was dedicated to it. So this one occurred 2 weeks ago. We had a whole day in here with the boys and in homerooms. We get a talking stick and we set up our space where we sit in a circle and we learn how to engage with one another. And the teacher sits in the circle too, so it's not, you know, I'm the teacher, you're the students, we're all in there together, okay? And we share a lot, okay, and we open up. So the first part is about who am I really, okay? And your son will be coming home over the next couple of weeks, probably asking a few questions about family tree. Mum, she might be talking to you about his birth story, okay? So if you've got a pretty hectic one, don't hold back on the details, all right? I've shared a fair few things with the boys and they never look at me the same afterwards, which I'm okay with that. So we get them to really look at who they are, where they come from, okay? And sometimes that can be quite upsetting. So we do often say, everyone's stories are different. If yours is particularly emotional, let us know. And we do offer, our counsellors are often walking around because we do get boys that end up in tears at times, but they're always protected and loved through that, okay? And often they feel quite good sharing, you know, their story if it's done in a safe way. Okay, the next one is that how do I get along with others? And this one is really good because it starts to make them look at themselves and go, oh yeah, I fight with everybody. Well, what's the common denominator there? Okay, and it makes them sort of go, okay, maybe it is me or the way I act or the things I say. Okay, if they're getting on with lots of people, they might be like, well, maybe I'm too easy. Maybe I'm a people pleaser. And they start to think, am I a pushover? Do I stand up with my own boundaries? Okay, and you might think that it seems pretty high level thinking, but the workbooks that we've got are really well written and there's lots of fantastic resources that we've pulled together and we share with the boys. So it's quite confronting at times, but very rewarding. Okay, so the next one, this is as they get a bit more towards the end. Is there something more and what do I have to give? Now with this, I find these ones are, some boys fly through it and you can see them find their bliss immediately and they know what they want to do, where they want to be and what their role is in life. Others are still struggling and not sure, and that's totally fine. It's just getting their mind starting to think, where do they fit in? Is there something more? Like, is it all about me or is it about what I can give back to the community? And the last one is, what do I have to give? What are your specific skill sets? Okay, are you a risk taker? Too much? Not enough? All those types of things. And you'll find the boys really do get involved in it. They really like these pastoral care lessons, and the sharing that goes on is pretty immense. And often they come out and for the rest of the day I speak to the teachers in the lessons afterwards. I go, oh, if it's a particularly big lesson, I say, how was year 9s today? They're like, no, they were quiet all day. Or other times it's like, we talked about periods, and we showed like an actual cadaver of, well, not we didn't bring it, but on a screen of a womb and all this sort of stuff, and the kids were like, and like, this is what a period cramp looks like, and you showed the actual anatomy, and they're like, and then we showed the whole, you know, the month, what happens as estrogen increases, and they were just blown away. We couldn't even get them out of class. We're like, we've got to go, guys, you've got to go to math. No, but we want to talk about this. So they do want the information. If they search for it themselves, they might get the wrong information. So that's why these really open and frank conversations are occurring. And there's lots of laughter too, which is, you know, obviously a good medicine when they're feeling pretty uncomfortable. All right, got to go faster. I'm getting the wind up. All right, so there are 7 parts of the program. This is like all of them. I'll go through them really quickly. So the calling is where your kids are now. They're up the hill. They're thinking about their childish behaviours. They're thinking about what they want to do, where they want to be, and they are going to come back down to you as men. You'll see them walking in soon looking like men. All right, and then the departure is where we are going to go after this. We're going to head up these stairs and go out the front, where you'll be chucking your blankets down and waiting for your big grown man son to arrive back. That's basically saying we're calling them to take part. They're accepting it. There's not really an opt-in or opt-out. We pretend like it is, but you know. They're opting in to this calling, and then they're going to depart on this journey, this 18-month journey. Okay? So the next section, we call it, is the following. All right, so the following is those pastoral care lessons I was telling you about. You can see on the screen there, we're set up in a circle. We've got that, like the same setup at the back there with the blankets in the middle, a candle, a talking stick. We elect an elder we find the elder, and they get to have a bit of status, because that is actually a really important thing, to having elders in our community that can pass their stories down. We do a whole lot of things, reflections and stuff like that. We use the feeling cards a lot. We want your son to come home, and if you say, how are you feeling, mate? Not fine. I want him to say, I'm feeling elated, mum. Or I'm feeling extremely frustrated. There's a whole bunch of different words that they can use, and we do try to expand that toolkit, as we said, because anger is only ever the tip of the iceberg. Okay, anger is a very, very easy and basic thing to feel. When we look underneath the surface, there's always something else under there. All right, the challenges. This one's a bit of fun. So we will be doing some... We did some challenges the other day. There was this hula hoop challenge here. There was this chair challenge there where they all had to sit down and then lean back off onto each other's legs. We removed all the chairs and they had to remain up. Only one homeroom got it, so they're all fighting about, you know, we'll get it next time. The other one there was this hoop challenge where it was to Thriller, I think it was, and they had to like bounce and end up not crashing into each other. It was a real hoot. We were all having a good laugh at the end there. Oh, Billy G, sorry. Other MJ. So what you noticed with that too was some of the boys, when they got it right, everyone was cheering, and then if one guy stuffs it up, oh, the poor kid copped it. So they're all going to be like working on that to try and better themselves for the next time we try it. They'll be juggling, they'll be doing some staves. Do you want to do the staves? Do we have time? So we usually have these staves up here, which I was going to get some poor unsuspecting parents out here to do this, but unfortunately we're running out of time. But I can possibly share on our an email home to show you the sorts of things that we're engaging with that. The Abyss. This is the one that's coming up at the end of the year. We go on a camp out to Cataract. I think I've gone forward one. One day they're in a cabin, just doing all, you know, the typical fun activities of camp, and the next day they go out on their own. And they're in a tent. They're not fully just dropped in the middle of nowhere, but they're in a space where they can't see other boys, really. The teachers will go around and help them, but they have to cook their own meals. They've got no phones. They're really not even encouraged to take books. If they're not a reader, we say take a book. If they are a reader, we say don't take a book, because you know you could just sit there the whole time reading. But they're given a little book with a little journal to fill out. They've got colouring pencils, and they're told to just be present. They all whinge about, oh, I can't do this. What are my phones? I'm going to miss my friends. I'm going to watch TV. And every single time we do a follow-up survey, I say, what's the biggest thing that you're worried about? It's the phone. And what was the best thing about being on camp? Not having my phone. They said I didn't have to worry about notifications and if I was missing out, because everyone was here, no one was on it. And I'm constantly hearing that beep, and I feel constantly like, what have I got to write back to? And that was the biggest thing they all loved not having. So it's interesting how much they actually want to get off it. They just can't. And they share it with us all the time. All right, and then what the beautiful picture you can see up there is of the kids have what's called the return. They come back from this abyss, this big challenge, and they're the big men again. And we have the homecoming where we will call you guys back to the school. that's our Indigenous garden out there. We have like a beautiful smoking ceremony right on dusk, and it was just a really lovely time where the boys come back in, you guys come too, and we just have a big celebration. We get mentors if they're up there that can share what they've done with their student, and it's basically just a celebration to say that we've made it and we're, you know, ready to take on year 11 and 12 and make those next steps towards manhood. Okay, so everything that we do in this program is basically, it's got a reason. It's not just go, oh, let's just do this because it's fun. It's all got a purpose. So it's going to challenge them physically or mentally or emotionally. And then we're going to say, and when those challenges arrive in real life, how do we move forward? How do we do it without losing our bundle? Okay, so this is where I was going to do the stave challenge for you. This is a little bit for these guys doing it.
Long, short, long. Short, short, long. Short, short, long. Long, short, long, short. Okay, that's a practice. Okay.
All right, so and then this is another one which I was also going to get you up to do, but we haven't quite mastered this one yet. All right, so we are going to try and get them up at some point, getting those things sorted. But I just want to say the one last thing is that the leadership team have invested so much in this that now every single staff member will be trained in the Rite journey. There'll be some through staff development days and homeroom team meetings. They're going to be over 15 hours of training this year alone. So everyone will be there invested and on the same path, knowing exactly why we're doing what we're doing here with the Rite journey. So thanks.
Okay, so I get the last few minutes before we head upstairs. Okay, so this word partnership is really important to us. This program relies on us working together, and there's really 4 groups that work together. So it's the school, it's the family, it's the young person, and it's the mentor. Now, if you haven't got a mentor yet, we really encourage you to find a mentor for your son. Someone who could be a family member, someone a little bit older who can share their wisdom and join them in an activity. All right, it's really important, you know, as parents of young men, that boys talk and share if they're doing something. I used to take my boys for a drive in the passenger seat of the car where they weren't looking at you, where they had something else to look at, was when I found out all their secrets. It's the same with a mentor. They are really listening to you if you're building something together and they're looking at that rather than looking at you. All right, so that's a really important thing, that we're all in this together. Where am I? Our role as a school is to acknowledge and celebrate your young men as they move from childhood to adulthood. It is to offer them this mentoring program. It is to provide challenges for them. It's to help them explore the ideas around growing older and what it means to be a man. That's what our job is. But your job as parents, obviously, is the most important one. So if you have a look at this slide, this is really important. Then, and I can guarantee you that over 40 years of teaching, this is what I've experienced. From parents coming in with their sons at parent-teacher, and the parent is, what's the meaning of this to the child? And now, not all of us, but often, it's, well, what's the school doing or what are you doing about it with our young people? It is a very real thing. Now, I know that we have faith in our young people, we have faith in our families, and we hope that you've got faith in us to be able to really work together for the good of our young people. I'm going to click through to this one. We do protect, we do overprotect our young people. We're encouraging each other to know what our sons and our students are doing, but to let them take risks, let them make mistakes, and please, parents, let them suffer the consequences of their bad choices, because if they do it now as 14, 15-year-old young people at school, they are less likely to do it later on when they're in a car or on a motorbike or in another really, really risky situation. So that's what we want them to do. We want them to take the risks now while we have more control over the risks that they're taking, and so that they get through those what are very, very natural yearnings of wanting to challenge themselves. We also have a growth mindset, as you know, here at Greg's, and we're really encouraging that we don't want our young people to be the best at everything. We just want them to continue to improve. And lastly, when parenting an adolescent, the problem with choosing to step in is that you prevent them from learning to step up. So, if your child can operate their smartphone, then they can use any of those appliances in the home. And we encourage you to encourage them to do that. Take their phones off them, or their game, I don't know what they play with these days. I don't play with Gamebox, whatever, Xbox anymore, I don't know. Take it off them. They actually want you to. They actually want you to put in place rules for them that allow them to be doing something else. It's easier for them to say to their friends, those rotten parents of mine took my phone off me for 2 hours last night, than it is for them to be able to make that decision. So please step in and give them some of these other machines to play with instead. All right, how can you help us out and how can we help each other? We're going to ask lots of questions. Please ask us at any stage throughout the program if there's something your son comes home and he's talking about and you would like to know what was delivered to them. All right, we can make whatever parts of the program available to you that you would like. Please be interested. Ask them on a Wednesday or a Friday if they were involved in Rite Journey on that day. Please ensure there are consequences for their poor choices. Mentors, can I have a hand up if you're a mentor here tonight? That is fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Mentors, your job is really important. In adolescence, we need to plant the seed early and then we can see the roots grow deep. So thank you to our mentors for being here this evening. I might make this PowerPoint available to you because I'm very conscious that we're going to go upstairs very soon. The question that we want to ask our young people is not what do you want to be when you grow up. The question we want to ask our young men is who do you want to be? So that's what this program is helping, we hope, to build. A really good way for us, all of us, to engage in conversation with our young people about who they themselves are deciding that they want to be and giving them the tools and the courage and the strength and the resilience and all those wonderful things that they can be who they choose to be. So we are now going upstairs and we are going to participate in the departure, the second part. We really hope you enjoy it. It's a very, very special time that you'll be able to spend with your son. As we leave, we'll give you a booklet. We'll go up these stairs here. We'll give you a booklet for each family to help take us through the evening, the rest of the evening. If your mentor is here, there's a book for mentors as well. If your mentor is not here, please feel free to take a booklet if you know you're going to use a mentor as well. All right, so we're heading up these stairs and your sons will meet us up there. Thanks, everyone.